what is happening with Jim Harbaugh, best you can tell? What can you tell me about that?
I think that he's maximizing his leverage. And I think it's brilliant. If you're going to have two NFL teams vie for your services, Rich, any two teams, you want the Panthers and the Broncos. It's the two richest ownership groups in the NFL by far. And there's no salary cap for coaches. So I think that, well, I know, because even though he says I'm staying at Michigan, he also speaks of the Super Bowl as unfinished business. You know, his brother has the Super Bowl ring that he wanted. He wants to get his own at some point. He left Ann Arbor last year to go interview for the Vikings job, thinking he was getting it and ready to take it. I think when that NFL ship comes in for him again, he's going to jump on it. And anything he says is just a prelude to him saying, well, okay, this is what I've decided to do. So I think that this very well could be the cycle that he decides this is my opportunity. And the Broncos make a ton of sense because he knows Russell Wilson from a great perspective.
Do they really? I mean,
against him.
I don't know.
2012, 13, and 14.
Okay, right. But that was the Russell Wilson you'd want to leave Michigan for. The 34-year-old one that's coming off of one of the worst Let's Ride seasons ever. I mean, that's and this is not a Michigan fandom thing. It really is not. Because if he wants to go with God, man. I mean, like he's done, everything that he set out to do, with the exception of having an above 500 record, I guess, against Michigan State and Ohio State and winning a championship. But he's done so much. I mean, and so if he wants to go, but I just find it hard to believe unless the Walton family gives him half of a mint, to do it. Really, 34 Russell Wilson with this contract, the way he just looked, the way the locker room currently is, the fact that there's no first and second round pick this year, that's attractive to you, Mike?
Well, not this year, but maybe next year, because the way I look at the contract, I think that after this year they could get out from under it, and they're going to have a decision to make, because there's the numbers get all jumbled up for me because it's 40.4 for Derek Carr, 57 for Matthew Stafford. I think it's 37 or something like that for Russell Wilson that becomes fully guaranteed after this season. So they do have a decision to make, and it may just be a one-year thing with Russ. And Jim Harbaugh may think he can put together an offense that gets the most out of where Russell Wilson is right now from a skill set standpoint. But whether it's the Broncos, I mean, the Texans, we don't know what they're going to do, and they're going to have the first overall pick. Once the NFL ownership begins to come to terms with the idea that Harbaugh is in play, and you can have him without having to compensate the Saints for Sean Payton. And this guy's a proven commodity. I mean, he walked right through the door, 6-10 49ers team, and took him to the brink of the Super Bowl. The next year took him to the Super Bowl. The next year almost back again. And yes, he's a little quirky, he's a little kooky, he's a little nutty, but you know what? Most successful people in their chosen fields of business are eccentric and demanding, and that's what makes them successful. And the Ravens have tolerated John Harbaugh since 2008. They figured out how to work with a guy who's very intense, and he's exactly as intense, if not more intense, than Jim. And there's a lot there to like if you're an NFL team. But you're right. He's ultimately got to feel comfortable, and he may have multiple options at the end of the day for which team he'd want to go to. And he's going to go to the team where he thinks he's got a chance to get that Super Bowl ring that he can take to Thanksgiving dinner when he's sitting across the table from his brother, who, I'm sure is flashing that thing every chance he gets.
So real quick before I let you go, is there a team that would blow out their GM so Jim can have the whole grocery store? What do you think?
Well, I don't know. Look, I don't know that he wants to be in control. I think he just wants a GM he can work with. He and Trent Baalke did not get along at all. I think he would get along with George Payton. I think that would work. I don't know about him and Scott Fitterer, but it's all about understanding as the GM that you need to give the coach a certain amount of berth. You need to be willing to work with the coach, and you need to accept the coach's personality. And most of the coaches out there have that streak where from time to time they're going to be hard to work with, and you just have to accept it if you want to have a successful football coach.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.